Newcastle takeover part of wider £1.1 billion sport washing programme report claimed. Newcastle confirmed yesterday that manager Steve Bruce has left the club by mutual consent. Bruce had been tipped for the sack ever since the controversial £305 million Saudi takeover was completed, and the wait is now over, with the winless Magpies sitting 19th in the Premier League. Bruce, who celebrated his 1,000th match as a manager in Sunday's defeat to Tottenham Hotspur, admitted it may be his last job. He told The Telegraph that being in charge at Newcastle had been very tough and had taken its toll on my whole family. He added, "To never really be wanted, to feel that people wanted me to fail, to read people constantly saying I would fail, that I was useless, a fat waste of space, a stupid tactically inept cabbage head." Saudi-led Public Investment Fund, PIF, completed the takeover from Mike Ashley on October 7. The Magpies are now the richest club in world football by some margin. The PIF is backed by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and is believed to be worth a staggering £315 billion. A report released earlier this year claims the Newcastle takeover is just one of a number of projects, totaling at least $1.5 billion, £1.1 billion. The report, from human rights organization Grant Liberty, claimed the Saudi authorities are seeking to co-opt global stars to launder their image. Read more. Toon owner's dream manager appointment been in pipeline since summer, while some sports people have declined, the report added others perhaps unknowingly have become pawns of the regime. Saudi authorities wish for the country to be associated with elite sporting events rather than its human rights record, it was alleged. While the figures around many deals remained hidden or undisclosed, Grant Liberty claimed the sports washing investment totaled $1.5 billion, £1.1 billion, $400 million, £290 million, bit, and another $500 million, £363 million, in failed bids. The Newcastle takeover fell into the failed category, meaning the total figure stands above the $1.8 billion, £1.3 billion mark at the moment. Grant Liberty called for greater awareness of the sports washing program. The report said, "Our message is clear: women's rights campaigners remain in prison, Democrats and minority rights campaigners continue to be tortured, Yemen is still being bombed, Khashoggi is still dead. All this remains, there is a moral duty to boycott Saudi Arabia." The report detailed successful bids for events including Anthony Joshua's second fight with Andy Ruiz Jr., the new Saudi Arabian Grand Prix which will be held for the first time in December, as well as a 10-year wrestling deal worth $500 million, £363 million, alone. When the report was published, talks were ongoing over a $200 million, £145 million, deal for the Anthony Joshua vs Tyson Fury fight, which now looks unlikely to happen, as well as a $182 million, £132 million, offer to Real Madrid through the Qiddiya project. The report referenced the Newcastle takeover, which had at that point fallen through. Don't miss 4 stars Fonseca could sign from Roma if he joins Newcastle. Report Newcastle icon Shearer takes Ashley dig as he reacts to Bruce exit. Quote, Steve Bruce excited about Newcastle future despite being sacked. It said, the bid was eventually fought off through a combination of human rights activism, of which Grant Liberty was proud to play a part, and a television rights row that made the deal unviable. The deal fell through, however, because questions remained over whether the PIF could be treated as a separate entity to the Saudi royal family, as well as a row over beIN Sports. The takeover passed earlier this month, when the ban on beIN Sports was lifted and the separate entity issue had been resolved. Formula One's first Saudi Arabian Grand Prix takes place later this year in Jeddah. Amnesty International criticized the announcement at the time it was confirmed. In a statement, they called on Lewis Hamilton to speak out as he could help take the sheen off Saudi Arabia's ability to sports wash its image. A declassified U.S. intelligence report into journalist Jamal Khashoggi's death concluded Mohammed bin Salman approved his killing. Bin Salman stated that he bears responsibility for Khashoggi's death because it happened under my watch, but still denies having any prior knowledge of the plot. Grant Liberty's report claimed they had details of more than 300 prisoners of conscience in the Mohammed bin Salman era. The Saudi plan, according to the report, is to associate their country in line with the magic that elite-level sport brings. It said, they want to bask in reflected glory and thus lighten their image. In Saudi Arabia's case, they want the country to be associated with elite sporting events to change the global perception of a murderous and brutal regime. The organization explained how sport can create change, citing the sporting boycott of apartheid South Africa. Sport played a major role in unifying the country's diverse ethnic group. Nelson Mandela's support of the South African rugby team during the 1995 Rugby World Cup is widely considered one of the most instrumental acts in bringing South African people of all races together. Prior to Sunday's match, the first of a new era at St James Park, Satya Deshmukh of Amnesty International UK said the organisation remains deeply concerned about how our football clubs are being used for sports washing. He told the Metro, football clubs being purchased for the purpose of trying to distract from serious human rights violations isn't confined to Newcastle, and sports washing isn't confined to football, but the Saudi takeover has obviously brought the issue of human rights and football governance into sharp relief. Despite assurances about a supposed separation from the Saudi state, ownership of St James Park is now very much about image management for Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and his government. Amanda Stavely, now a Newcastle director, told the BBC her firm PCP Capital took these concerns extremely seriously and has reiterated throughout that PIF is not the Saudi state. She was asked whether the takeover is sports washing and responded, "No, not at all. This is very much about the PIF's investment into a fantastic football team and we look forward to growing the club."